values, and the category has become, over this period, over the last 60 years, a brand of Britishness as an export model within itself. So in the same way that you look at hip-hop or jazz or classical music as a category, British culture, lyrics, has been exported for the last 60 years. And if you ask yourself, what decade is defined by what you listened to and what you enjoyed, you can pretty much identify from the 60s through to the Human League in the 80s, you know, and right up to, obviously, to present day. We've heard from, you said earlier that we outweigh where we are on the global stage. I'm from North London, but I have lived in California for 15 years now. I oversee 60 countries for investment. And for the first time in my career, we see awards going to Korea. We see some of the top acts coming from Puerto Rico. These are things, well, you'll be seeing this in Netflix as well. These are completely, total, unimaginable events. And the technology which everybody's leaned into has really equalized investment opportunity, and it's created an avalanche of competition where a country, a nation will follow the investment where there is a framework for legal protection on AI, on responsible AI, on copyright. So I've woken up in a new future 20, 25 years later, where China, which was a market where we never invested in because it was an entirely counterfeit market, is now the 7th biggest market in the world. There's an enormous amount of conversation and identification going on in my company, and therefore I assume the rest of the industry, on India. So it's not just the demographics, it's how these countries transform themselves in terms of the economics around investment. So we have an opportunity, and there's also a risk, that with AI, which you said quite rightly, we'll lean into. I'm incredibly optimistic about AI on the functional level, that it can work with composers and writers and creators to stress test their authenticity and their talent. But there's also, AI gives us a new category of licensing, of ways in which the music can be shared and conjoined that we've never had, in the same way that you mentioned radio and sheet music and polyphonic synthesizers were going to kill orchestras and it was going to ruin classical musicianship. It did the opposite. It made it boom. So we're at a crossroads. The advantage for the UK, about the UK as an investor, is that it has, as the Prime Minister keeps repeating, the rule of law, a non-politicized justice system, and it respects and rewards for investment and innovation and creativity around copyright and IP, whether or not it's in pharma or music or film or TV or publishing or anything that anyone comes up with. So we are going to increase substantially our investment in the UK. I've been spending a lot more time here in the last 6 months. The route to speeding this up will be with entrepreneurs. So my commitment, our investment is in new ideas, entrepreneurs. We've been doing it for decades, but what I see in terms of some of the other markets, Korea, Latin America, Nashville even, both on audio visual as well as music, is the path to acceleration is with people with ideas and in the independent sector. So that's where we're going to be putting our money. We've talked about not just it being totally focused in London. We're going to lean in with investment, and this soft power that you can look at the artists that I've mentioned over a 40, 50, 60-year life cycle, but it's the hard economics of the one that we find this afternoon or tomorrow that actually drives everything, from this soft power through to taxation.
Now, talking of later on today, I wondered if there might be something that you might want to share with us.
That's where I've got my dainty out. Yes, I am able to share. It's been a secret so far, but it gives us great pleasure that for tonight's event, which I think starts at about 6:15 or something, Sir Elton John is going to perform. And he's someone who really epitomizes everything that I've spoken about. He is iconic. His music, his philanthropy defines Britishness. It defines, he's an ambassador. And so he wanted to be here, so he's going to be performing.
I wish you could see the politicians' faces in the front row here. We spend a lot of time in meetings and receptions. We don't get Elton John very often. This is a very exciting day for us. And I love the way that you talked about ambassadors. You use the same phrase as well, Gareth, but I think that just goes to show what these industries do for our country and do for the world if we get it right. And Maria, last but not least, because our heritage and cultural sector is an incredible crown jewel in Britain, perhaps hasn't had the attention that it's deserved. But when I look at organisations like the Tate, what they do, in Liverpool, in London, all over the country, it's the most incredible thing. But like so many other parts of the creative industries, there's intense competition for investment. What would your message be to people who are thinking about investing here rather than, say, France or the US? What's our USP?
Absolutely. Well, I mean, the visual arts in this country is genuinely world-leading. Dame Tracey Emin is a name as well known, I would say, as Sir Elton John. And she welcomed 100 visitors to her studio here in London last week during the Frieze Art Fair, who came high net worth individuals from all over the world. She talked about a painting that she'd finished the night before. She is a product of our art schools, which are absolutely the best in the world. She's a working class girl who would not have ended up where she was were it not for our art schools. And she invests back in her hometown of Margate. She's created an art school for young people who would otherwise not be able to pay university fees. So she's ensuring that our visual arts and our museums will remain competitive. The mayors sitting along the front row, every single one of those have world-class collections in their cities, whether you talk about Leeds or Liverpool or Manchester, or the contemporary arts that are shown in Margate or Eastbourne or Penzance. It's spread right across our country. And although you'd expect me to talk about artists like Tracey Emin, who is absolutely inspirational, it's also about money. So the Frieze Art Fair last week generated £1.6 billion for the UK economy. The UK's visual art market is 17% of the world market. Wow. More than the rest of Europe altogether. It's third only behind the US and China. And that soft power that you talk about, Lucian, is felt across the continents of this globe. This week, Tate has 2 shows in Shanghai. Ella Natchui, the Ghanaian artist, and our great historic Turner paintings. I understand the Foreign Secretary is going to see it, which I'm very pleased about. But over the last 3 years, 1 million Chinese people have seen Tate shows in that country. And you see that replicated across all of the globe. There are 1 million people who will see Tate exhibitions in this next year across the world. So we are already world leading. For every pound the government gives, we generate 4 more for the economy. But if you invest in the creative sector in this country, you are investing in the best. And you mentioned Korea, Lucian. Hyundai Motor Company are Tate's biggest corporate sponsor. Over 10 years, they have invested £26 million to support things like Korean artist Mira Lee's commission in the Turbine Hall, which opened just last week. Now, if the Korean government thinks it's worth investing in our arts and creativity, and our government does, I think you know that it's because it is genuinely leading the world.
It's amazing. I'm so glad that we gave you the last word, because I think that note is exactly how we feel, that we're so proud of our past when it comes to heritage, culture, arts, sport, music, film, TV, but we are far more excited about the future. Can I just say a big thank you to you all for spending some time listening to the discussion. I hope you've been really inspired by it. Our absolutely clear message is we have the talent, we have the assets here in the UK, and we are absolutely open for business. Big thanks to our panel, and look forward to seeing you all later for a bit of Elton John.
Exactly.
Thank you. That was so great.
I'll go back to the lectern. Well, thank you, panel. A terrific discussion. Bang for the buck, soft power. Fantastic. We've heard from the Prime Minister. We're coming to the end of our morning plenaries. Have your chats off to the side, please, ladies and gents. We're coming to the end of our morning plenaries. We've heard from the Prime Minister, experts, world leaders in the fields of technology, innovation, sports and the arts. And now, distinguished guests, it's time for you to choose to attend one of two breakouts. The health tech ecosystem, turning data into decisions.